Hi, I'm Courtney, and I apologize that it has taken so long for me to get my next video up, but I think this one is going to make up for some of that because it's going to be a little bit longer, and you're really going to learn a lot more about me today. As a reader, I have been a lifelong reader. I would much rather read than watch a movie or watch TV. Part of that is probably because I grew up most of the time without TV. We had TV when I was really young, and we had the Disney Channel and cable and all that good stuff. We also had a room full of beta and VHS tapes. So I did get to see plenty of digital media as a kid. But when I was in, I believe it was second grade, I had to get glasses and wear a patch on one eye because I had a lazy eye and had some vision issues. And so my mom decided at that point, let's go ahead and get rid of television because it's not going to help. And my mom was always reading to us when we were growing up. And she is still a very avid reader. But when we got rid of television, and this was before social media because I am ancient, she read all the time, and it just kind of transferred over to my sister and I, to the point that she would even joke like grounding me was not really a punishment because I was super happy to just be in my room with a book. And she really didn't take books away. So I didn't have video games, I didn't have TV, we didn't have the internet yet. And we just played outside and read books, and that was pretty much it. So that probably has a lot to do with my love of reading from a very young age. And I'm going to go through a lot of authors and a lot of books and talk about different things from childhood to current. And it's a lot. When I say I read a lot, I have read over 600 books in the past 4 years. I read a lot. I read very fast, and I also read as the only form of relaxation I really have these days. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But just get ready. I'm also going to put all those authors that I would recommend in the description, and I would love for this to be very conversational. So I'm really hoping that plenty of people see my list and say, oh my gosh, you would really love this person or this series, or just have a conversation, because I honestly wish that I had a book community to talk to. I have tried to do a Bookstagram and a book talk account, and honestly, it felt like work. And when reading became work, I didn't want to do it anymore. So it was fun, and I love to promote authors. I will still share all the time when I have a great book or a great author. I will always share them because I understand it's a lot of work, and getting published and making money as an author these days is really difficult because of how Amazon and how book publishers work. It's not as straightforward as it seems. And so I will always promote authors, especially indie authors, so independent publishing authors, smaller authors, new authors, and really good series. If it's really good, I'm going to talk about it. Books are something that I absolutely adore, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of them. The only regret I have about reading is that I didn't start tracking my reading until a few years ago. And I really wish that I had tracked what I was reading when I was a kid, because looking back, trying to remember all the great books that I have read is very difficult. I even had to enlist the help of my mom for some of this because she and I read together a lot of the time. So we would read the same book series and like work through it together in my like preteen and teen years, and even some as an adult. So remembering all of that was kind of difficult, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. But those really good ones kind of stand out in the front of your mind. So those I still got. And I remember some of my favorites as a kid, so I'm going to talk about that too. So if you don't like reading, if you don't like books, this video is not going to be for you. But if you do, or if you want to get involved with reading, maybe again, it took me a while to get back into reading after college, because in college it was read for school. And I went to a private Christian college, and the reading was heavy. Textbooks Bible reading because we had to double minor in Bible, literally reading every chapter of entire books of the Bible and having to do chapter summaries. So you had to summarize every single chapter. I read nonstop in college because I had to. And so it took a lot of the fun out of it for me. So I will be referring to notes quite a bit, and I apologize for that, but there's a lot of material to cover here. And I will be on and off with glasses in order to do that. So again, I apologize for the awkwardness for this one, but it's a lot of info to share and I don't want to mess it up. Like I said when I started this video, I am a long time avid reader, lifetime of really loving books. And that started because my mom would read to us all the time. My mom loves to read out loud and I could listen to her read all day long. But she read to my sister and I a lot. And even my nursery when I was a baby, the Beatrix Potter books were in there. I still have that set. I think I still have it. I might have given it to my sister for my nieces, but the box set of Beatrix Potter books were always a favorite with Peter Rabbit and all of those wonderful characters. And it just built a love of reading. For me, I know my sister loves to read still too. She doesn't get to read as much as she wants because she stays very busy with her own 2 daughters. But she tends to read more nonfiction, growth material, things for business, things for life, things for motherhood. I am a fiction reader. I love novels. The only nonfiction you will see is in actual physical books. And I read those for personal growth, business growth, and they are few and far between. And if I'm going to read nonfiction, it will be in a physical book because I'm going to highlight it, make notes, flag things. It will be referred to later. So I like to have that physical book for that. Everything else will pretty much be digital. Unless there's a reason that I really want the physical copy, it will be a digital book on my tablet, which I should probably grab to show you. But I also have a system for that. I honestly love the digital format now. It took some getting used to because that wasn't a thing when I read a whole lot before. E-readers were just coming out when I was in college. But I moved over 18 times in 20 years. From 18 to about 36, I moved a lot. So less than 20 years. Sometimes it was just a few months in one place and there were lots of reasons for that. But when you move that much and you have to pack that often and books are very heavy, you don't get to keep them. So that was kind of another big reason why I went digital. It took a while. I love the smell and the feel of a book in my hands. The smell of books and pencils is my absolute favorite. The candles like that, I wish I could use them because I love that smell so much. There's different kinds of paper that smell really good to me. I'm completely nerding out on this, but it's what I love. It's what has always just felt comfortable to me. English was my favorite subject in school, no question at all. I love reading and I love writing, and probably I enjoy both equally. But writing is usually assignment-based, work-based, things like that. So it's not quite as fun, but it's very easy to me. And now I love that I get paid to write professionally as a copywriter and content creator for other business owners. There was a time when I wanted to write novels or short stories, but these days I have not wanted to pursue that. I don't write dialogue very well. It just kind of flows in my head and it's hard for me to get it out. But I think anyone who can write a novel is highly talented, and the degree of discipline and research and things like that are amazing. I have been on several ARC teams, so advanced reader copy teams that do book launches and book tours. And when I say tours, those are online on Instagram and TikTok. So I have been on several of those when I was doing that before. So when I had the Bookstagram and the Book Talk accounts, I was on ARC teams. And I loved doing that with authors, but again, it feels like work. And it is a lot of work. But it also builds your respect for those authors because you see how much work they do behind the scenes just to get their book into people's hands. And that made me respect it a lot more. It also helped me understand how it works, especially with digital books and that being the most popular thing right now, how they get paid. If you don't know anything about that, I highly encourage you to look into it. It'll help you understand how you can support authors the best way as well. I'm going to talk about some of my favorites from childhood, so I'm going to read that list to you. These are just the ones that have popped up, but they're also the ones that I go and look for to try and get them into the hands of my nieces, because I think they were fantastic. They still stand out to me, and I'm 41. So these are fantastic books. If you have children in your life that you're looking for books, these might be some good ones for you to check out. My very earliest memory of reading a book is The Velveteen Rabbit. The big hardback version with the beautiful illustrations. The Velveteen Rabbit is my earliest memory of reading a book. Beatrix Potter books, the whole set, I have the box set, and they're little bitty, cute hardback books. Berenstain Bears, I think we read all of them as children, and I have given a lot of them to my nieces already, and I still love them. The Frog and Toad books, Mrs. Pigglewiggle, which I pronounced as Piggly Wiggly, and I saw when I was doing research for this video that a lot of people pronounce that name very differently. So I think it's funny, but it's spelled Mrs. Pigglewiggle, and that was a whole series of chapter books in middle elementary school that I absolutely loved, along with the Amelia Bedelia series, the original Amelia Bedelia series. And now reading them with my niece, she's read the young version, so those came out later, the young Amelia. Reading them with her last year showed me just how much of it was written for adults as well. And I love that, going back reading children's books with children now. You get to see kind of some of the little pieces that were put in there for the adults. But Amelia Bedelia, I think, is even more important now. And if you've ever read them or understand them, then you get why. But look them up if you're not familiar. They're fantastic. They're hilarious. The kids will be laughing. Even the adults will be laughing at some of the things that that woman does. Junie B. Jones was also very popular. I also love that my niece is reading all of those herself. She is 7 and her teacher reads them every day, and now she is also reading them herself at home. The Bailey School Kids were also very good, and the Wayside School series was also a favorite. I'm waiting to get those to give to my nieces because they're not quite old enough yet for a lot of these, but it's really fun to look back on these books and think about the impact that they had on me and how much joy they brought to me, but also the memories that I have of teachers reading to us. I have always loved someone reading out loud, which I'll get to in a little bit because it's kind of funny that I always enjoyed that, but I have never listened to an audiobook really until this weekend. I had listened to some. I listened to one previously, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's just interesting to see the layers that are in books for kids about lessons and how people work and the uniqueness of people and things like that. It's really cool to look back at these books that we loved and cherished so much and see just how wholesome they are and how much they were teaching us without us even realizing it. But now we're going to talk about more school age, middle school, maybe a little bit older, some of the books that I remember from that. All of the Goosebumps books. I loved going to the library and getting those. The Ramona series, pretty much anything by Beverly Cleary was really good. The Chronicles of Narnia, heavy read, but very good, and some of the few fantasy books that you will see me list here. Anything by Judy Blume, anything by Bruce Coville, anything by Roald Dahl, anything by Shel Silverstein, Charlotte's Web, Little Women, The Indian in the Cupboard, The Giver, The Midwife's Apprentice, always stands out in my head for some reason. I don't know why. I don't even know where I found it. I think it was in a classroom. Random book, but it still sticks in my brain for some reason. The Babysitter's Club series, the American Girl books, those were brand new when I was reading them. American Girl was brand new when I was younger. And I have actually found some of the original copies of the books for my niece. They're still a little bit too old for her. There's a lot of old language, old ideas in there that are a little bit harder for her to comprehend, so we haven't quite gotten through that yet. One of the things that I realized when I was doing this research and pulling things together was I really love series. And even at a young age, I loved reading a whole series. To this point, at this time, I like it when a series is completely done before I start it, but it's rare because I read so fast. I will read everything from one author all at the same time if I find them. Because once I figure out that I like an author, I like everything that they've written. It's very seldom that I will start with an author and not like all of their material and not read through a lot of it all at once. Part of that is when they are writing a series, the character development happens all at once. And so you move through all these different characters in the series. So a lot of times what I read now is rom-com, and you'll have like groups of friends or families, and you read through all those different people. But you're not having to relearn every time you start a new book in the series. It's picking up in the same location, the same group of people, the same themes, the same writing style. And so it's really easy for your brain to just kind of keep going through that imaginary world that that author has created. And so I tend to go that way. It's also kind of easy to know what to read next until you finish the series, or until they're working on the next book in the series and you have to wait. But at least you know it's going to be worth it. So now we get to the big guns, which actually started the thought for this video, and that is more of the pre-adolescent, adolescent, teen, going into my early 20s books that I read then, because that's what, you know, I was really remembering first when I started thinking about this video. And that's where the bulk of this reading happened. For fun. And it's a lot of when my mom and I were sharing books, because at that point I could read just about anything. Age limits and reading limits and school things didn't really matter at that point. When I hit about 11 or 12, I could just read anything. Now, my parents were very careful about content and making sure it was child appropriate, but my mom and I were reading a lot of the same novels, a lot of the same series and authors at that time. And this was when we would go to the library about every 2 weeks, I think, and come back with stacks almost as tall as us. And, you know, my mom and I would swap them back and forth because we would read through the same series and then talk about it. And I think that's part of the reason why I kind of miss having community with books now, is because my mom and I would talk about it so much. So some of those favorite authors, and I have read a lot by these people, are Gilbert Morris, Jeanette Oke, Francine Rivers, Robin Jones Gunn, Lori Wick, Beverly Lewis, Karen Kingsbury, Martha Rogers, Luana Blackwell, Lorraine Snelling. The Left Behind series, I read the kids and the adults. The Christmas Jars book was one that I really liked as an adult. That whole list that I just read you is mostly Christian fiction, a lot of historical Christian fiction, because that's what my mom and I both really like. Now these days I can either go with historical or current day, and a lot of the time I read current day because there's a ton of it. But I also still really like the historical fiction too, because it's a really fun learning experience at the same time as just enjoying a good book. So that takes you to pretty much my early 20s. And again, I didn't read a ton in high school and college because I was reading for school, and also I was very busy. So then I kind of took a break and got out of reading until when I was in massage school. I'm going to give you kind of the list that re-sparked some of this. And then I went through a slump again where I didn't read a whole lot. And then I came back to it. It's been very much a roller coaster type journey. So while I was nannying and in massage school, I had, again, a tight group of friends that loved to read, and they influenced a lot of my reading back then. But some of the big ones that came out during that time were Twilight and the Hunger Games. And again, you won't see a whole lot of fantasy reading in my lists of reading archives. But this was still physical book time. So I didn't have an e-reader at this time. I had a Kindle, and then I may have gotten my Kindle around this time. But I remember very vividly when I was nannying, I was in massage school, and I had like a 2-hour block in the middle of the morning that the kid that I was nannying would sleep. And so I would read for fun after I got done studying. And I was reading the Twilight books first. And my friends were like, oh my gosh, we love these books. They're like young adult fiction, but it's so easy and it's just fun and it's really popular. And the movies are going to start coming out. So if you want to read them, you know, go ahead and read them. We're going to keep reading as they keep coming out. And then we're going to go to the movies. I had never been to a movie premiere ever in my life. And I went to every Twilight premiere with these women. Grown women, we were all at least our mid-20s. Some were up into their 40s at that point, and we had a blast. We read these books, we talked about them. It led us into other books and series that everybody liked. So, and then we went to these movie premieres to the extent that, you know, we were waiting in lines outside, inside, midnight movie premieres. For the movie where Bella and Edward get married, I went and grabbed a sheet cake from Kroger and had them write Bella and Edward on it in like red, scraggly frosting, and we had wedding cake while we were waiting. We got interviewed by news channels because we were some of the only adults that were there, and we didn't care. We had a great time. We loved talking about how, you know, the books were better, things like that. And then Hunger Games hit, and we kind of moved right into that. And again, I think I went to a couple of the premieres, but I have seen all the movies and I have read all the books. And let me tell you, the books are so much better. But that is a series that I will continue to read until the author stops writing it, because now the prequels are so good. They are filling in all the gaps of the original books. But I remember I was reading and I'd finish a book at night. And I mean, these books are thick. And I'd finish reading and have to have the next book. And I went to Meijer one night because it was the only place open. It was almost midnight and they happened to have the newest book. And so I would go grab it and come back home and finish reading. That's how hungry I was for the next book in these series. So again, books have always felt like a community for me, and I am very much a homebody, introvert, and books are a way that I can go into other worlds, go into other lives and experience things, travel without having to travel. And it also just creates a sense of community with other people that have read those books but still are comfortable talking about it online or talking about it in short pieces, like what we had with my friends. So we're going to take a little break from the lists of books and authors and get a little bit more into the how, the why, and what got me back into reading in 2022. 2022, I was in coaching, and it was kind of personal coaching and kind of business coaching together. It was all about, you know, how my brain works and what I need to be successful. And one of the questions that this coach asked was, what helps your brain be quiet? What do you do to have a quiet brain? And I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of insomnia. I have since I was about 15 years old. And so for me, nighttime is difficult. It's just difficult for me to wind down. It's difficult for me to close all the tabs. When I do like meditation, yoga, exercise, my brain spins faster during those times. And so when I thought about it, I said, reading makes my brain quiet. That's the only thing. I was a massage therapist for over 10 years, and massage doesn't relax me. Now, if you play with my hair, give me a scalp massage, do a facial massage, or massage my hands, I will melt, but my brain will still keep going. So to fully relax and fully get quiet, reading does it for me. Movies don't do that. I have recently found just this weekend that even audiobooks don't do that for me. Reading the actual book myself does. And for me, when I read really good fiction, and it's got to be good, I am a do not finish person. I don't care how great everybody else says the book is. Colleen Hoover books, I can't stand. Don't like them at all. I don't know why anybody else likes them. But reading is very personal. So your own personal choices will always determine what you like. And other people may love something. It may have a cult following like Colleen Hoover does. I don't like it. It's not my thing. I tried, I couldn't get into it, and I will put the book down no matter how far I am into it. If all of a sudden it becomes a struggle for me to continue to pay attention, I'm done. I'll put it down and I won't go back, and I don't care. Now, I generally won't give a super low rating on those books. The lowest I'll give them is a 3 because, again, it's my own personal opinion. It doesn't mean that it wasn't well written, that it wasn't well constructed. It means that I didn't like it, and that's okay. So I don't want it to be a negative impact on that author's hard work and their quality just because my personal opinion is that I don't like it. Now, if it's full of errors and it's obvious that it was not edited well or thrown together or it's hard to follow, then I might give it a 2. Anything less than a 3-star review, I'm not going to put it out there because it's just going to hurt them. And I feel like writing is such an art, and I would never, give an artist that's doing portraits or paintings or anything else, I would never rate their stuff low based on my own opinion. That's not the same as a review of a product. So, and if I think it's a 3 or lower, I won't share it because I'm not going to put negative publicity out there for these authors either. But it's okay to not like something and to not finish it. A lot of people struggle with do not finish books or did not finish books. I don't know, DNF. I don't struggle with it. If I don't like it, I'm not going to read it. So that's my opinion on books that I don't like. If I like it though, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to share it. I'm going to give it a great rating. I rate everything I read. Those ratings go on Amazon and Goodreads. It's another reason why I like to do it that way is because it just automatically goes to both. And then I also have a record of the things that I've read, because when you read as much as I do, as fast as I do, it's easy to forget if you read a book or not. Now, some of them you never forget, but it's easy to forget, like, oh, did I read this series yet? Did I read this book in this series? Because maybe it came out after you finished it. So I like having the digital map of what I've already read from the platforms that I use, which are, I have Kindle Unlimited, and I love it because I read a ton and I read very fast, and I don't have storage for books anywhere. And again, I had moved a lot, and if I'm traveling, I'm going to be reading, and it's a lot easier to pack a very small tablet than 20 books. I would need a whole suitcase for books to go on vacation, and that would not happen. I also like to take it with me pretty much everywhere. I will read in car line. I will read when I'm babysitting and the kids are watching a movie or sleeping. I will read at the doctor's office while I'm waiting forever. If I have to wait on something else, I'll read. So I like that it can also fit in my small purse. And it can easily go in any bag that I take while I'm traveling. What do I use as an e-reader? I don't use a Kindle. I used to. I tried it again, not this past fall, but the one before, and I just don't like it. I don't like the device itself. I don't like how it works, and I don't like how expensive they are for no more than what they do. So I found a long time ago, probably, I don't even know when. It was a long time ago. I've had a Samsung tablet. I've had Kindles. I have an iPad, which is what I use to refer to for all these notes. And so you can put the Kindle app on any of those devices. I also have the Kindle app on my phone. And that way, if I am out somewhere and I don't have my tablet to read off of, I can always just grab my phone and catch up on where I'm at. I also like the insights that the Kindle gives, so that's where I can keep track of what I've read and where I'm at this year, how many books I've read, things like that. But I currently am using, and what I have used most of the time, is an Amazon Fire tablet, the smallest one they have. It is a color screen device, and I put a matte screen protector on it, which makes it so that I don't have a glare in bright lights and outside. That's a key tip for you. Get a matte screen protector so that you can read anywhere, anytime, and you don't have to worry about any of that. Now, I don't have any social media apps on here. I don't have anything extra. I don't use it as a camera. It literally is just an e-reader. And now that I have tried it this weekend, I also have Audible on here because I signed up for it with my Kindle Unlimited plan, so I have it for free for a month. I don't think I'm going to renew it at all. I don't think I'm ever going to pay for it because I didn't like their subscription plan. But it was funny, I read very fast. I read extremely fast. And I apparently need my audiobooks to be that fast too. So I have it sped up to 2.5 times while I'm listening. And it sounds really fast, but that's how fast my brain is processing. And if I let it go slower, it's like super boring to me. So that was pretty funny, but that is what I use. It's cheap as far as e-readers go. I usually will look for whatever they're doing for Black Friday if I need a new one, because they do go through software pretty fast, and so you can't update them, but you can trade them in on Amazon and get a huge discount on your next one, in addition to their Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals. I have had some fun cases on them in the past. I didn't get a fun case for this one. This is just a magnetic Amazon case, like their standard one. I'll probably have to replace it because it's starting to get kind of worn. I also love that my niece uses one, her dad uses one, her mom has one. And so I can also use this with her. That was a big reason that I went back to this versus the Kindle, because this has a color screen no matter what. And so I can also put the Libby app on here, and I have another one that our library uses. And so for a while there, she and I were reading every day, and she was burning through books real fast. And so I could put them on here and she could read them with the color pictures and everything. And so that was a big reason that I went back to this as well. But in the summer, we have a pool in our apartment complex. And my favorite place to read is in the pool with my arms up on the concrete ledge with my e-reader. And so I don't want a really expensive one because I'm afraid I'll destroy it. And it goes everywhere with me. Again, I don't want to destroy it. So that's kind of how I read my books. This chair is where I love to sit the most, and I will recline it back, grab my big heated blanket, my tablet, my glasses, my water, and I am set for the day sometimes. The other place would be just in bed. I do have a holder that I have used a lot in the past, but in the recliner, I don't really need it. So like basically a phone holder, but it's for bigger devices, and that kind of saves my neck. I do also have a page turner, which sounds really bougie, but when you're like under your blankets and you're comfy and cozy, especially if you have your tablet up on a holder and you're reading for 5-6 hours, that page turner is really nice, because then you don't have to like constantly take your arm out and tap the page and tap the page. It's just a convenience thing. I don't use it as often as I used to, but it is nice to have sometimes because your arms get tired. And then of course reading glasses, because I have to now. So that's kind of how my system works. I love to read all the time. I do not have children. I can't have kids. And so I have a little bit more free time than some. I do babysit my nieces pretty much every day except weekends. I'm with my older niece before and after school every day. So my tablet goes with me there. It's also just no distractions because I don't have any apps on there besides like the basics that come with it and my books. When I am reading, this is always interesting to me. When I'm reading, I am seeing like a movie in my brain to the point that I really don't even see the words a whole lot. Like I know that I'm reading words, but I'm experiencing the book visually in my brain. That's the only way I can explain it. I don't hear my voice reading at all. I hear the voice of the characters. I see the characters. I see what's happening as if I was watching it on a screen, like a movie. I think that's really fun. It's also how my brain just completely goes into that and shuts down everything else. And I get very relaxed. I can sleep. It doesn't put me to sleep. I'm one of those people that I'll stay up until I finish a book usually. I've gotten a lot better about it now that I get up at 4:30ish. So I don't stay up very late anymore, but I will read for hours on end. It's one of the few things that doesn't give me a headache either. It's just reading. If I watch movies for a long time, like if we do a movie marathon, I will get a headache after about a movie and a half, about 3 hours. If I'm watching something on my phone, I get motion sickness and I get a headache after too much time. Reading does not do that, even on a screen. I don't know why. I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's because my eyes are completely in control, but it works. And it helps me just calm my mind down to go to sleep, and nothing else does. Besides watercolor. Watercolor can help too, but reading does a lot better. So, 2022, I got back to reading. And my coach helped me, that this is like a reward. So you do a bunch of things, get your task list done, and then read just for the fun of it, to relax, to reward yourself, to enjoy something like self-care. So in 2022, I think I did that coaching summer and fall. So it was kind of beyond halfway through the year. But I did read at the pool a lot that year. And that was 71 books finished. Now these are just digital books. So if I read other things, they're not counted in here. 2023 was 211. That is by far the biggest year. I did a lot of historical romance reading that year. Kind of found my niche and my groove and found a lot of authors that I really liked. 2024 was 124 books, so we dipped a little bit there. And then 2025 was 141. So 600 books since the end of 2022. I like to say some people binge shows. I binge book series. And I will go all the way through a series. I have a ton of nonfiction favorites. I will say Matthew McConaughey's memoir is a favorite, and a book called Reconnected, which is actually up here on my shelf, from Carlos Whitaker. I actually love everything that Carlos has done. He is a Christian speaker, pastor, with a very interesting past and a very interesting life. And Reconnected is fantastic. He spent a set of months without his phone, and he's a vlogger and Instagram personality, and so being on his phone is important and a lot of his day. And he gave his phone up, gave it to his friend, went and just lived his life without it, connecting with people in the world around him. And he wrote about it. So he spent a section of time with monks in a monastery, a section of time in Amish country up here close to where I live, with an Amish family. And then he went back home to Nashville and spent some time with his own family without his device before he got it back. And he did brain scans before and after and all kinds of things. So it's a very good book. All of his books are great. How to Human is another great one from him. But I have those in actual physical book form because, again, I will highlight and write notes and flag pages. It will look like a textbook by the time I'm done, but that's how I process nonfiction. So that, one of the other nonfiction books that I have read was an audiobook. It's the only one that I had listened to until this weekend, and it was on CDs, like back before we had audiobooks on our phones and stuff. I had a very long road trip. It was 12 hours there and 12 hours back by myself, and it was a very emotionally charged road trip, so I needed something to help me get outside of my own brain while I was driving. So I listened to a book from a Women of Faith speaker. I can't remember who it was. It's a little teeny tiny blonde lady. I want to say Patsy Claremont, but I can't remember. And I listened to that book all the way down and all the way back. I drove from Dayton, Ohio to Gulfport, Mississippi, and back by myself in a 5-day stint. It's a very quick, long trip. But listened to that, and then hadn't listened to another audiobook since, because I don't know, it just didn't seem like my thing. So I was thinking last week while I was actually planning this video, I wonder how I would like it. I wonder if I could get into it with fiction. And I tried it this weekend while I was baking a lot. I listened to a book, a novel. The novel was good, and it was actually kind of fun to listen. It's a little different, and I also have trouble reading multiple things at once. Some people can read several books all at the same time. I can't do that. I get them all mixed up in my head. So I'm still trying to finish it. But I listen at 2.5 times speed, and it's a little bit weird to me to be listening to other people's voices. I envision it like I do when I'm reading, but not to the same extent. And so it's a little bit harder for me, and I can easily get distracted when I'm just listening. If I lay there and listen with my eyes closed, that's one thing, but I miss chunks of the book with audio. The other thing is I need to figure out which platform I want to use, because it's so expensive. With Kindle Unlimited, I can read as many books as I want in their system whenever, and I pay, I think it's $12 a month for that. And I can have 15 books at a time in my library. And so to be super limited on the audiobooks is difficult for me because Audible, it's like at most you can get 2 books a month for $15. So that's a little tough for me to swallow. So I don't know how that's gonna go. If you like to use Libby or something else for audiobooks, please tell me. Please tell me how to use that system well, because it is very expensive and very limited. And at the rate that I read, it doesn't seem like it would be a great idea for me. There are some series that I'm still very hooked on, and as soon as a new book comes out, I'm going to read it, like The Hunger Games. I will pre-order any Hunger Games book that comes out. The prequels, I think, are actually better than the original series. They just are. The storylines are stronger, the character development is better. They're just really good. And I won't stop reading them. I don't care how old I am. I love them. Another series that was like that was the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. And it is fantasy. It is very involved. It was almost too much for me, but I can generally handle young adult fantasy. Now, I tried reading the Game of Thrones books. I tried reading the Hobbit and all of those from Tolkien. Can't read those. Tried to read Harry Potter as an adult. Can't read those. Too much for me. Too many things to remember, maps to keep track of, people to keep track of, languages to figure out. I cannot do that kind of fantasy. So usually if it's young adult, on the gentler side, I can handle it. I'm also just not a huge fantasy fan. It's very specific. Some things I've really enjoyed, other things just not at all. So now moving into more current day reading obsessions, author obsessions, things that I love now that I have found in the past 5 years that I absolutely love. I will read anything they put out. And several of these I also have found Ohio-based location novels. and authors from Ohio that write about Ohio. The first one was one of the first books I stumbled into back, 2022, 23. Her name is Savannah Scott, and she was actually from an area very close to where I'm from and where I live now. And I was reading this one book in her Shipped series, and I was like, wait a second, this is like, the town name is fake, but also if you're from Ohio and you know some of our meme-worthy city names, it also fit right in with it, because the town was Bordeaux, Ohio, but they didn't pronounce it like Bordeaux, France. It was like Bordeaux is how they pronounced it, which Ohio is very good at doing. Like Lima, Ohio is spelled like lima bean, but in other countries it's Lima. We have a lot of that in Ohio. So it's just kind of funny how she wove that in. But then the books were all based between Dayton and Columbus, and I live between Dayton and Columbus. So it was really fun. I had a lot of messaging back and forth with her on Instagram, like, I love how you built this, how you did that, how you wove this in. One of the last books in that series, it's just really fun personally for me, so sorry about the emotions, but one of the last ones, she wrote about this couple going to Frisch's Big Boy in Grove City, Ohio. And that's where my husband and I went for our wedding lunch the day that we got married 7.5 years ago, that exact restaurant. So when I tell you the personal connections meant so much in that series, and I fell in love with everything she did. Not only is she a fantastic writer, and her rom-coms are fantastic, but having that personal connection to a whole series of books was very cool. I'd never had that before. And then there are several other authors in this list that have written about Ohio, and places that I have lived or been to. And it just always is so cool. I always wonder, like, people that live in New York or LA or, these other big cities that get written about a lot, is it really fun for them to read about those places? Especially when it's accurate like these were. So I also love to just chat with authors. I think social media is fantastic for that, because I will reach out to them and tell them how much I love their book, tell them, what my favorite things were, things that made me laugh or cry. And it's really cool to get to have that experience with a real person and get the behind the scenes of how they did that, how they wrote it, what they had experienced, things like that. So this list is long, and again, I will put them in the description as well. So these are all 5-star authors from my more recent years of reading. I will literally read anything that these people put out, and I am very stingy with a 5-star review. I will give lots of 4 stars. I will not give that many 5 stars, and all of them have gotten at least 1 5-star, if not several. Savannah Scott is the one that I was just telling you about. Emma St. Clair, Melanie Jacobson, Megan Cousins, Courtney Kiesel, Dana Lischeminant, I don't know how you say her name, Ellie Hall, Jennifer Peel, Gracie Ruth Mitchell, Martha Keyes, Casey Stockton, Katie Bailey, Julie Christensen, Brittany Larson, Courtney Walsh, Ann Kemp, Anna Conwell, Leah Brunner, Lindsay Cord, Kate Watson, Ashley Dill. Special note on Ashley Dill. Her books will rip your heart out, rip it into shreds, then put it back together and have you wondering when the next book comes out. They are emotional terrors that are some of the most well-written, great stories you'll ever read. Ashley Funk, Grace Worthington, Karina Taylor, Christine W. Joy. Her books are so good. So fun to read. Stacey Williams, Jen Atkinson, Audra Wells, Kate O'Keefe. There are rom-coms, there are sports romances, there are lots of series in all of those. And I keep track of when these people release new books. They're so good. Character development is great. The storylines are great. You laugh, you cry. They have a happy ending. They're really good. Most of them are sweet rom-com, some are closed door, no spice. I've read the whole gamut of all of that. They have a clear rating system for all the digital content, but there's no rating system for books. And when they try to put labels on them, it's still very subjective. And it's hard to sometimes get it exact. And I wish there were rating systems like that. Some have, you can at least search for genres and tropes and things like that. But it still doesn't tell you exactly. And maybe that's because different people's opinions of those kinds of things are different. But if they can do it for movies and TV shows and video games, I think they could do it for books. I would love to see that someday because, number one, it would protect children, because I've seen so many stories of teenagers getting books in their hands that are so wildly inappropriate for them, and the adults around them haven't read it, so they don't know, because there's no rating system. And so, the parents will see like a kid's reading something, and then some other adult is like, do you really think that's appropriate for them? And they're like, well, sure, why not? And then they get told why it's inappropriate, because there's content that doesn't need to be covered for a 12-year-old. And then they realize that the books that they were letting them read were not appropriate. And this has been going on forever. I remember in high school, my best friend, she would read all kinds of things. And I think a lot of it was just stuff like that her mom would get and leave sitting around, and so she'd pick it up and read it. And I remember her handing me a couple of them, and I would start reading it, and then I'm like, no, this is not appropriate. This is not something I need to be reading or want to be reading. And I just give it back to her. Not judging her or anything, but it just wasn't appropriate. And I don't think any of the adults around her were paying enough attention to read it themselves first, or to really do their research on, is this book appropriate for my 16, 17-year-old child? So I would love to see someone create a rating system that is clear and used across the board. I don't care if it's a Christian book. I don't care if it's, whatever. I feel like a rating system would be really helpful for the book world. Just my opinion. Oh, how do I pick what I'm going to read? I read a lot, as you've already seen, and I read very fast. It has to be good. It has to be interesting from the very beginning. So just like your content online has to have a really good hook and get them interested in the first 3 seconds, I need to be interested within the first probably 3 chapters. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to keep going. I do look at ratings, but again, as I've said multiple times in this video, reading is very different to everyone. And so I take all the ratings with a major grain of salt, because you need to. But I do read them and see, why someone rated something that way. If it has a lot of ratings, if it's brand new, I understand that's not going to happen. But you do have ARC readers that will give ratings and reviews. That's part of their purpose. So I do look at reviews and ratings. I look at, the synopsis that they give. I look at what the author has written for other things and what the ratings were for those. So I do a lot of looking before I get a book. And a lot of what I read is on Kindle Unlimited. So it's, I know who I like. I know what I like. I can generally tell pretty easily if I'm going to want to read it or not. If it's from one of the authors on that list that I gave you, I will be reading it. There's no question, no review needed for that. And then some of the other ways that I will do it is on Stuff Your Kindle Days, which are huge discount or free books that are on the Kindle platform. They're only available for free or $1 or less for that one day. It generally goes by genre, so there will be like a Stuff Your Kindle Romance Day, a Stuff Your Kindle Sports Romance Day, a Stuff Your Kindle Mail Order Bride Day. Like, they go through different things. And you get on email lists and social media groups that tell you when they are. And so then I will try other authors, other genres. That's when I've tried some more fantasy books, some other types of things. I've tried some thrillers at that point. And when you get it for free or for like $1, you're not that invested in it. So if it's not good or you don't like it, you don't worry about it too much. I have found some really good ones that way. But that's how I like to try some of those. And then if there's something coming out, like a new Hunger Games book, I will definitely pre-order that on my Kindle so that the day it's released, it hits my Kindle and I can read it before all of the spoilers come out. And then I don't even have to remember. It just alerts me, like I get an email, hey, your book is there. And I can go read it anywhere I want. So that's kind of how I pick books. Again, I have mostly fiction, 98% fiction, historical fiction, romance a lot of the time. I did find a series that I really liked over the summer that was like a light thriller mystery with romance. I did kind of like that one because it kept you thinking. I like sports romance because I love sports. Not athletic, but I love sports. The historical ones are really fun sometimes because you learn so much and it's just different. It's kind of an escape kind of thing. I read a lot of those authors that I told you are in groups, and they will do group series, and I love that too. Where they're all in the same town, or they're all in the same team, or the same group of characters, but they're moving through different places. So I really like those too. So I did mention that I had tried the Bookstagram book talk side of things for a short time. I did it for about 1.5 years, and it just felt like work because you had to highlight passages that you wanted to use in your content and then make reels and videos and blog posts, and you had to post on certain days, and it was just it felt like work, and it was taking the fun out of the reading for me. It was still fun, just in a different way, and it just, having lots of deadlines and things like that. Yes, you're getting the book for free ahead of time, but it's still a lot of work to not get paid for. And I didn't want it to feel like work to read a book, so I let go of all of my ARC things at that point. I finished everything I had agreed to and then took myself off the list. And I stopped sharing content that way. I will still share about books, but I'm not making reels for them. I'm not making TikToks for them. It's a lot of work to make that content. And the authors appreciate it, but it's just a lot. And I didn't want reading to be a job. I would love to get paid just to read. So I talked about the audiobooks and being in the car, and that is something else that I've been thinking about with audiobooks is, like, we have vacation coming up. We're going to be in the car for 2 days to get there, 2 days on the way back. And I won't listen to something the whole time because, I'll talk to my family and things like that. But I used to be able to read in the car when I was a kid. And somewhere in college, I couldn't look at anything anymore in the car because I get really, really sick. So I can't read in the car anymore. It's kind of depressing because, like, my parents are an hour away, my husband's mom is an hour away, and then when we go on vacation, we're always in the car. And so I would love to be able to read in the car, but I can't. So that's another reason that I was reaching out about audiobooks, was to see if maybe that was an option to give me something to keep my mind occupied in the car. And maybe I can listen to what I'm reading on audio and then pick it back up as the book. Also, I don't know. I haven't done it yet, but we'll see how that goes. But it's an option. And I may just listen to podcasts in the car, honestly. But I have a hard time listening to things like that because I get distracted and I want to take notes and things like that. But that's a whole nother thing. So I love to have my books when I'm traveling because vacation, there's plenty of downtime, and that's how I relax, is reading. And I know that my parents like to read. My husband likes to watch videos. So we all have our own thing. And when I have that downtime, that's what I like to do. Sitting down to do the research and the lists and the review for this video was so fun. It reminded me of a lot of things that had made me very happy over my life. It reminded me of how much books helped me through different seasons of life. When I was married the first time, the stress and anxiety was very, very high. And I didn't read a ton during that time, but that's when the Hunger Games and the Twilight books, and there were some others during that time that really helped me escape reality, I guess. And sometimes I guess that is what we do. And that's what we do when we scroll social media and when we just watch videos endlessly, or, you know, when your life is tough and you just want to watch something that feels good. For me, books do that. And so I can look back at different sections of life and see different books that were also helping me along during that time and giving me a different place to be and helping me experience other things at the same time. And they've created memories for me that are just different than other things. But I also have a hard time remembering a lot of the books that I've read because there's a lot of holes in my memory and a lot of issues with my memory. And so when I had to go back through and try to figure this out and remember some of those important books and some of those authors, you know, and I texted my mom and said, hey, I'm going to do this video. Who are some of these authors that we absolutely loved back then? And she helped me out, helped me with that list. It just brought back how important books have always been for me and how comforting they have been. Everybody has their thing that brings them comfort and calm, and books have always done that for me. And I like movies, I like all kinds of things, but I can always read. And I think part of that is also I've always been a people pleaser, and I've always been very careful about not making anybody uncomfortable or disrupting people, sometimes to the detriment of myself, and reading doesn't bother anybody else. I was raised, you don't read in a crowd, you don't read, you know, at a gathering. Now, if it's just my family and we're all just hanging out, you know, you can read if everybody's doing their own thing, like when we go on vacation. But, you know, if I'm in a group setting, I'm not going to be reading a book because I was raised that is rude. It's ignoring people. But I can read sitting next to my husband while he plays a video game with headphones on, because if I can hear it, I can't focus. Or I will play music with sound canceling headphones and he can do whatever he wants. But we can do that together, and even though I don't like playing video games, we can still spend that time together without bothering each other. So I think that's another reason that reading has always made me feel good, is because it didn't bother anybody. I wasn't making noise, I wasn't up being distracting, and it's just such a part of life. So reading has always just been comfort to me. Escape, comfort, a way to quiet my brain when it really, really needs it. I have a hard time shutting my brain off after I finish work for the day. And when you work from home and you run your own business, you can't just walk away from the office. It's not the same. And so reading helps me kind of make that shift into something else. The things that I thought of when I was coming up with this video and writing out the outline was maybe I could do like one of these videos each month and just highlight some of my favorite reads from the month and make it a little bit of a series, but also kind of an online book club where maybe other people can tell me things that they've enjoyed that month, or if they've read some of the same things, what their thoughts were. That's what I really miss about reading is, yes, you can do it on your own, and we're all, you know, a lot of us are introverts that like to read, but we still like to talk about the books too, especially when they're really, really good. I'm in a couple of Facebook groups for readers and books and Ohio book things. And I love when the most recent Game of Thrones or Hunger Games book came out. We were all having discussions in these groups, and I loved having other people to talk about the books with, because you process so much when you read a book, especially a really good book. And it's fun to have other people to talk to. Like my husband always asks me, what are you reading? How's your book? Like he always asks me about my books. And I love telling him, and I think he can probably see it because he just kind of grins. And I just get excited about talking about what I just read or what I am reading. And he kind of laughs sometimes when I talk about, you know, who the characters are, which sport they play, or, you know, something like that. And sometimes I laugh when I'm reading. Sometimes, you know, there's a lot of emotion going on and he just kind of watches and shakes his head a little bit. But he does his thing, I do my thing. They both make us happy. They both keep us from bothering the other one. And he also just lets me talk about books because he knows it makes me happy. So I appreciate that about him as well. Feel free to tell me what you like to read, if you have some favorite authors, or if you have anything in those genres that you think I would enjoy, let me know. I would love to see it and hear about it, and maybe I have read it and we can talk about it. If you think that series, maybe once a month, of what I've read this month would be a good idea, go ahead and let me know that in the comments too. And if you're interested in my life and what's going on after 40, go ahead and give me a subscribe so that you can stay up to date on everything. I think this video is long enough and I have plenty to put in the description, so I'm gonna get working on that, and I hope I'll see you again soon.